So I went through the tank one more time with the whole shaking system. Instead of bolts, this time I used little stones, little pebbles that have some sharp edges. I just collected from around the house. But to be honest, the second go didn't really do much. The first one really cleared out all the rust that was, that wanted to come off. But the second turn really just didn't really do much. I mean, the water that came out was a little bit orangey, rust colored, but I don't notice much difference. So I think it's not really. I'm not going to be able to get the remaining rust out, which means for now I'm gonna have to buy one of those, or a couple or a few of those little fuel filters, and put that in line coming from the tank, the petcock going into the carb. I'm gonna have to put in a fuel filter in between and just keep replacing those until I decide to get a new tank. Because the rusty tank, the biggest problem with rusty tanks is that those tiny little rust particles can get into your carburetor, and once they get in there, they plug up all the little, carburetors have very tiny little holes that fuel goes through, and once those get plugged with rust particles or any sort of particles, they won't work properly or at all. So you have to avoid getting anything that's not fuel into those jets, into those carburetors. So if you can clean out your tank properly, the other solution is to put in something that will catch those particles, which is a fuel filter. And those are just like tiny little filters that you put in. You put from the tank, a little line or tube goes into the filter that filters out the fuel, and on the other side, through another tube, it goes into the carb. So basically you just put it in the middle. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go online and order some. And now that I'm done with the tank, I think next step is going to be the cooling system. The radiator is gonna need a lot of work or replacement because it might be too far gone, I'm not sure. And then the little fan on the radiator also looks fairly bad. We'll see. And then once that's done, I think I might start rebuilding the bike, putting all the wheels back on properly and all the other stuff that I took off, cleaning them and then putting them back on. Now I do probably have to replace the rear shocks because they are very rusty, as you can see. I mean, they probably still work, but they look something awful, so I'm probably gonna have to replace these, both of them. I'm gonna have to buy a battery, but yeah, I'm gonna start. Also, I ordered online a screw, a stripped screw extractor set. Those are just tiny little drill bits that are meant for extracting stripped screws. I'm gonna try to fix the brake caliper, the front brake caliper, where the little pin is stripped with those. If I can't, then I'm gonna have to buy new brake calipers and master cylinders as well, or one master cylinder, the brake lever thingy. So far, what I know I'm gonna have to buy is shocks, battery, caliper probably, master cylinder brake, master cylinder. What else? Indicators, at least rear ones. The front ones look okay. What else? I was able to save the chain, so I'm not gonna have to buy one of those just now. At some point I'm gonna have to buy a tank, but not now. I'm gonna have to buy fuel filters, a few of them at least, because I imagine the first one or two is gonna get plugged fairly quickly, so I'm gonna have to replace them after, like, I don't know, every 3 or 4 rides or something like that. And then I'm not sure about radiator. I might have to buy one of those as well. And let me show you actually a closer view. Now, I don't know if the camera picks it up, but it looks fairly clogged. All these little vents look a bit clogged. Also, the fan on the other side is I'm not sure if the camera picks it up, but it's very, very rusty. I mean, it spins still, but I don't know, we'll see. Also, this horn looks horrible. I don't know if it will work, but I don't really need a horn, so I'm not really worried about that. But yeah, other than those, I think most everything else is salvageable. I was able to salvage the seat over there. So yeah, after I'm done with the radiator, I think I'm gonna start rebuilding the bike, and then possibly after I rebuilt it so it can roll, then I'm gonna try to see if the engine is seized or not. That's gonna be a very suspenseful moment, because if it is seized, then I don't think I can fix that. But it shouldn't be. The guy who I bought it from said it isn't. He said the engine is good. I hope he was honest with me. He seemed like an honest guy, but still. So yeah, that's the status report for now. Here's the tank. It's drying out. I'm gonna clean it after from the outside and move on. Can't wait for this bike to run. Once I get it running, I still have quite a few things before I can actually ride it. I don't have a license for a motorcycle still. So in this country, in the UK, in order to ride a 125cc motorcycle like this, you need a 1-day course first. Well, first you need to have a UK license or a EU license registered with the DVLA. But I sent my license away to the DVLA to be converted to the UK one. So once I get it back, I can go and get a CBT, which is a compulsory basic training, which is a 1-day training that after completion allows you to ride motorcycles up to 125 cubic centimeters, which this is. And with a CBT, you can ride these bikes on any road apart from highways or motorways, and you cannot carry a passenger on the back, and you have to display a little L plate on the back and front, I think. But apart from those things, you can ride wherever you want. And after that, once I have that, then I can go on to get a full license, which I want to do because the main point of getting a bike is to go on adventures abroad, and with a CBT you can only ride in the UK. So I'm gonna have to get a full license as well. Now I have a few options. I can go for a full A license, which is to be able to ride any bike, or I can go for an A1 license, which is just the very smallest bikes up to 125 cc's. If I got the A1, that would allow me to ride this bike abroad or anywhere without an L plate, on highways with a passenger. I could basically ride anywhere, anyway, but only this bike or bikes up to this size. On the other hand, if I get an A1 license, I wouldn't have to get the lessons, which are the most expensive part of getting a license, because I could do my test on this bike, which means I could practice on this bike. But if I get an A license, a full A license, that means I have to pay for all the lessons and a loaner bike from the school where I do my test, and that can cost upwards of £1,000. But if I get an A1 license with this bike, I could get one for as little as £100, because I think it's £15 or something for the mod 1, which is on a little track that they have, just maneuvering and stuff, and then mod 2, which is in the city, like in regular traffic. But if I get an A1 license, that means I could do this. I could do all two of those things, the mod 1 and mod 2 on this bike. I wouldn't have to, rent a big bike. So I have to decide if I want to do just an A1 to be able to go abroad as soon as possible, or if I want to do a full A, which means I could get another bike in the future if I wanted to. I'm leaning towards A1, and then maybe later on do the full A, because I just want to go on adventures as soon as possible. But I have time to decide that. So yeah. Anyway. Well, let's continue, eh? So I took this thing off, which is the battery holder that also has the coolant reservoir attached to it. Well, that's nice because I can clean it nicely. However, I had to disconnect a whole lot of cables all around here under the seat, and I'm a little bit worried because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to reattach all of these, because I don't really know where all of them go, to be honest. I'm hoping the manual has some information about this, because once I cleaned that thing, I'm gonna have to put it back somehow. Yeah. I have to be very careful because when the back wheel is off, the bike is only held up with the kickstand, the front wheel, and the car jack. So if one of those 3 points fails somehow, which the car jack is the most likely one, then the whole bike can just fall over because there is no back wheel to hold the back of it. So I have to be very, very slow and careful with this part. Before I continue, I'm gonna take the chain guard off because it's in the way. Surprise, surprise, the chain guard bolts are all stripped and rounded. So I'm gonna have to go get a file and just kind of file it down so I can fit a socket on it and be able to turn it. So I have this little handheld file, but I'm also gonna try this one first so it's quicker. Okay, that chain guard is not gonna give up that easily. I'm gonna have to use some force. And of course this ran out of battery. I think I'm gonna have to move on to the radiator then while this charges.